Oh, I got my cacao. I started drinking my cacao again. And I'm gonna say that I've been feeling much, much better and much more centered than I have been in a while. And in other words, I'm glad I went back to drinking my cacao. Let me click record as well. We are live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook people. How are you guys doing today? Okay, so hello, hello, hello. So today we're gonna have a really very fiery topic is I'm gonna say. I'm trying to. There's a lot of words that are coming through, but it's gonna be a fiery topic. And those of you that know Shell, she does not hold things back. She will tell you how it is, and smack you upside the head if you need it. I too can do that, so we can both will be smacking you from one side of the head to another side of the head to get this crap in your head that is.
Gentle slaps.
Gentle slaps. Nice
Yeah.
ones. You know, but when your mom loves you and says, come on, you can do better. So we're here going to be helping you um, get your mental health in check, understand a little bit more of where you're at, where you want to go, um, talk about the state of the world, what has caused it, and the main purpose of that, which is a perfect, lead way into the topic for today. The topic for today is mental health check crash course, because the way that Shell and I do things is we literally vomit all the information out on you. It is a whole entire crash course of everything you practically need to get your shit together. Right? To take something from here, from this video, and get going and move forward, and only glance back as a reminder, but not look back and not stare back. Okay, so let's start off with, as we share these things, we're going to be, I guess, politically correct and saying things in a way that hopefully doesn't trigger systems, doesn't trigger people, and allows this very important message to be shared with everyone, that it stays on this infinite internet or infinite web. So the current state of the world right now is a little bit better than it was a month ago, let's be honest. And the reason for that is because people have been wearing, putting their warrior uniforms on, warrior suits on, as one, and as the other started working on themselves, and having hope has been a huge help for many. So I'm just gonna give it to Shell, because I was even telling Shell that it's really important to surround yourself with people that you can exchange information with, that they provide the information for you that you yourself are not able to get. And it's not that you're not able to, is that you spend your time learning other things. Not all of us can be amazing researchers like Shell is, or bookworms like Shell is, that likes to read all the time, right? And there you go, right?
I also recommend audiobooks if you don't like reading. Like audiobooks are just as good.
And that's what I do, because I was telling you, like, when it comes to reading, if I have to sit down and read, very often I feel extremely anxious, because I would rather be active and doing other things.
Yeah.
And just reading, I move faster, and reading, I know with practice, my reading will also become like really fast, and will be like as fast as my speech, which is like, slow down, Yana. We're trying to catch.
I'll do that sometimes where I'm like 5 paragraphs in and I'm like, wait, what did I? Like I was just following the lines with my eyes.
Right?
I have to go back and like read.
Exactly.
But yeah, audiobooks are great, especially if you want to like do things. Like I clean at night, so it's like I put on an audiobook. I never am not learning. Like I have like an addiction to learning, which I mean could be seen as a problem, but like
No, it's not, because
I think
that's a new it's like knowledge is power. Nowadays, knowledge is power. The more you know, and that's why I surround myself with people that are a lot more knowledgeable in the areas that I want and desire to have the knowledge. Certain things, like for example, with the state of the world, that's knowledge that I desire to have. But there's different things that I'm focusing on when it comes to acquiring the knowledge. So there's so much different types of knowledge out there in the world. And by having people in your life, surround yourself people in your life with the knowledge that you want to acquire, or whether it's a lot or a little bit, it's up to you, right?
Yeah.
But finding people that are passionate about certain things that you want to know more about.
Well, yeah,
So,
everybody has a different role. So not everybody has the same. Some people are absorbers of information, and then their role is to then process it and like expound on it, or relay it in a way that is more digestible for other people that need that digested version, and then some
yeah.
people, like, I think, like, when we were talking about spiritual awakening, I think in a very long ago podcast, like I said, everybody's awakening looks different. Like, anyone who's gonna sell you one package of like awakening right away, I don't trust that person. Like, like, I'm like, okay, that is how it worked for you. I have seen people, spend their entire life at an ashram and still not understand the teachings that they're like parroting to other people. Like, I think that no size fits all with this stuff. And we're seeing that on like a crazy level. And it, like we were talking before, like, I sometimes get aggravated because I'm like, how are you not with it yet? But I have to remind myself that the awakening process is happening for everybody. And if anything has shown me anything the past couple months, is that even the people that I thought were like so gone are starting to like absorb a little bit of information, and they're starting to get it. So it's like, okay, cool. Like,
Hope. That's hope.
I'm having more faith now that, people are starting to get with it, because if they're like, the fate of the human race right now hinges on the fact of us coming together. And which leads into the mental health thing, is that everything that is being fed to us right now is with the sole purpose of hindering you and your growth as a person. Because the human spirit is a very valuable thing. It is like, and it's profoundly strong, and it has the potential to do lots of good. And there are very specific ways to hold someone back from growing as a person and becoming the exact like embodiment of spirit that they need to be. So like, so the main way, if I wanted, and like what I was saying to you earlier, if I wanted to be a manipulative a-hole and keep you from becoming your best version of yourself, I would tell you to sit in your victimhood. I would tell you to just wallow in it and look at everybody else around you as an oppressor or as someone who doesn't understand you, and that you are the only person that's going through what you're going through. I really dislike right now that there's this thing going on where everybody feels as though they need to have some kind of specific experience to speak on something. Like, we're pulling the identity cards out every single time. Well, I am da 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 da, so therefore I have a right to talk about da da da. And I get sucked into this sometimes, because when we go on the defense, we feel like we have to be like, oh, well, I'm this and I've gone through this, so like I understand what this. We need to stop doing that. Like, when I see people say, well, you don't understand, you can't speak on this, and then people say, well, I'm gay, or I'm Jewish, or I'm, black. or I'm like, we're constantly pulling out the identity, ego. Like that is like directly related to ego.
Yeah.
To validate that we can talk, that we can speak on our experiences, or that we can speak on a certain subject. Anybody can talk about anything. Like,
It almost sounds like giving yourself permission to speak,
yes. And it's like,
giving yourself approval to speak because you deserve it, and you give the reason as to why you deserve it, instead of just knowing that you do without any excuses and reasons.
yeah. And every time that we use that identity card, we're bringing ourselves backwards. We're not moving forwards. We're reminding ourselves like, oh, because every time you use that identity card, it's rooted in victimhood. It's rooted in entitlement and victimhood and ego. So you're like constantly putting yourself back into an unprogressive state every time you use that. So I have to catch myself too, because like there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I used to be chronically depressed, or I was I was in child protective services, or I was homeless, or whatever the fuck. But like, there's a million fucking things that people can use. Like, we need to stop doing that, because every single time you do that, you bring yourself back to that. Like, we retain memories, you know what I mean? Like, so you bring yourself back to what it was like to be in that state of like lower frequency every single time you use that card. So if you really want to progress, you have to move forward. You have to not feed back into that stuff. You need to not, like, you want to grow. So that means letting go of the victimhood. It does serve a purpose when it happens. Like, when the bad stuff happens to you, or you have that experience, recognizing that you are a victim in that moment is good for healing. It's like, okay, something did happen to me. Cool. All right. Acknowledging that something did happen to you is the first step. But then you have to move forward. You can't just keep being like, something happened to me, something happened to me, something happened to me, something happened to me. Because then you're just going to be in that something happened to me state, feeling bad for yourself, feeling the darkness over and over and over again, and not alchemizing it. You're not doing anything with that. Like, we have to learn to use these experiences to move forward. Too often I am seeing people who say that they are in identity politics look at the most unhealthy. Like, they seem like the least sane people that I've ever met, and they're saying that they are about mental health, and they're not. Like, you could tell that they're stuck in this like spinning. I call it spinning. Like, when we get in a rut and we're just like mulling over the badness, like, oh, these people, they're just out to get it. All these things, these bad things keep happening to me. Like, I am just like constantly, you're attracting that. Like, the law of attraction is fucking real. Like, excuse me. The law of attraction is real. And when you're doing that, you're literally just attracting bad things. You're looking for bad things. You're asking for bad things to happen to you. And as offensive as that might sound, like, I'm not asking anybody to do it. You are, though, because you're looking for it. That's the vibration you're living in. That's what you're attracting to yourself. It's not good for mental health. It's literally, you're not doing the work. So we all want to talk about doing the work. The work looks like, okay, like, I'm really, really sad. I'm in a really dark place. I'm at my rock bottom. And it just takes going, what can I do to get out of this? And then you're like, well, there's nothing I can do. And like, that little bad voice is telling you that you're stuck there and there's nothing you can do. You've tried everything, but the thing is, you haven't, because there's always a way out. So too often we look at the big picture and we get really overwhelmed. So I think we need to like really lower expectations of like what a first step looks like. For me, when I went through all this bullshit, the first step for me was like cleaning my room. Like, I cannot express to you how often I would look at my room and it would be a mess, and it's like a reflection of what your mind looks like. Clean your
In the
surroundings.
office too, yeah. Be
Yeah,
surrounded.
yeah, cleaning your surroundings, folding your laundry. These become very meditative things. And this is like a tool that later on, when you're feeling overwhelmed, cleaning becomes like oh, I'm de-stressing now. And it's an active thing that later you can look at the product and you can be like, oh, like I did something. I took.
But when you have kids, that product doesn't always last very long.
But
So
that's why
those of
you
you that
teach
have,
them. But then you teach them to do the same thing, and then that's like
exactly,
a tool later on for them to like learn and keep.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
like,
where if you are the one that has a kid or kids like myself, and they make mess once in a while,
yeah,
or you just cleaned and you turn around and you look, oh my God, where did this hurricane come from? I didn't know. This is your opportunity to health check, you to mentally health check yourself and choose of which way you want to approach it. Because you
yes.
can approach it to a point where you terrify your kid by getting angry.
Hmm.
And all of us have gotten our anger at our kids, and we know how much guilt and shame we feel and how much we don't like doing that. So the option becomes not an option, right? You don't want to do this because not only do you feel bad and you shorten your life, you stress your kid out, you create a certain image of yourself in this child's mind now, and they're scared in the corner and don't want to come out. I'm giving the extreme example, right? And then the other extreme example would be you turn around, everything is clean, and your kid just spilled a whole bag of milk everywhere,
Yeah.
right? And the floors were literally still wet, they were still drying. Right? And the milk is everywhere, and his little footprints or her little footprints everywhere. Maybe you have a pet and they ran through it. You have an option to do what I just said and get really like lose it on them and create trauma, because that's what will happen in that moment.
Mhm.
Or think try to think of what they were thinking, try to get into their mind of what they wanted to do, right? They didn't intend to make the mess, they didn't do it on purpose,
Mhm.
right? They were curious, maybe they were thirsty, maybe they were trying to do something new, like when they were little, when they started walking and they fell and they hurt themselves. They were trying to learn something new, and by trying, we all make mess.
Yeah.
Every single one of us, when we
But
do something for the first time, you make mess.
you don't have to clean it up by yourself. You can teach the kid how to clean and
Exactly.
like, okay, we're gonna do this again, because then they'll be like more careful about the milk again, because they're like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to clean this up if it like falls and I make a mess again.
And
You're
it'll be a different memory that will be created, right? Because if we get angry at them, get upset, even if it's just a little bit angry, they'll have that memory. Oh my God, I messed up. I
yeah,
made a horrible mistake. Instead of leaning in and helping your child, because initially you'll be helping them and teaching them how to do it. And yes, I know it's going to take a lot and they'll make more mess than they will clean up. I get that. I've been through those stages as well with my kids.
mhm,
And I myself sometimes feel like I make more mess than I created initially. But eventually it all gets cleaned. Eventually they too will become good at cleaning, and maybe even better at cleaning than you, because if you start them off young, they'll have a lot more years of experience when it comes to cleaning. So when it comes time for them to have their kids, they'll be already trained for cleaning after themselves and their spaces.
yeah,
And that is the child or the adult that everybody want to be in a relationship with, because they will also have a clean house. They will clean up after themselves, because a lot of people do complain about their partner leaving mess or dropping clothes or not picking up after themselves.
that's like a different thing though. That's also
Yeah, I know that's a whole different thing, but
yeah. So that's
it
like,
is a
okay,
program.
let's let's just, yeah, those are now we're going into like cleaning with like all these different facets of cleaning.
I know,
I'm
right?
talking about like, because that's like a like we could talk about that in a little bit, like with boundaries. So like, but um, I'm talking about cleaning as in like, because we talk about meditation a lot. Like you hear about like health people, like mental health people talking about, and like yogis and gurus and all that kind of stuff talking about meditation. And the type of meditation that they always talk about is the sitting down in lotus position meditation. And what a lot of times we don't talk about is that there are different ways of meditating and calming yourself. And the thing that we should be doing is finding out what is where can we find joy in meditation. So not thinking of it as a chore or an obligation. And for me personally, my personal meditation is cleaning. I enjoy cleaning. I do not look at it as oh my God, like I have to do this thing. I think of it as, oh wow, okay, I'm going to put on music, or I'm going to put on some stupid show that I don't have to pay attention to just for background noise, and I'm going to do the dishes. Or I'm going to really take my time doing the dishes, and I'm going to enjoy the process of doing the dishes, and I'm going to enjoy the process of cleaning up, and I'm going to dust every corner, and I'm going to take everything out, and I'm going to deep clean. Like, that is an enjoyable process to me now, because I like the feeling afterwards where things are settled and things are in their place and I can breathe. Because when your environment is very messy and chaotic, it is a reflection of your internal. Like, if you allow, like, I don't know if you've seen that a lot of people, like people who preach about mental health, and they're in these identity ego things, the background of their picture is always a hovel. It's like always like some chaotic mess. Like, keep your eye out for this, because I see it all the time. And I'm like, wow, this is a reflection of your state of being. You are in like a complete chaotic state of being, and you're like not getting out of it, and you can't even deal with the basics of being a human right now. So cleanliness is like that whole like thing that Christians do. Cleanliness is godliness. Like, I think there's something to that. Like, I think when you have a clean surrounding, it's easier to think, and it's easier to focus, and it's easier to work on certain things. With kids, it's like then comes in the, let me teach my kids good habits. Let me try and get this to a certain place. Let me there's like a lot of different other levels to it. But if we're just talking about the individual, like, cleaning is of the utmost importance. That's like one of the first steps. Also, cleaning yourself, taking baths. Like, people, I think, in Western civilization do not understand what a privilege, and I hate using that word, privilege, but what a privilege it is to use a shower or a tub and have clean running water whenever you want it. Like, and we should definitely like utilize that and feel good about it. Like, I don't know, like, people talk about, they throw out the self-care title all the time. Like, self-care is something that we need to do. We need to make time for ourselves to enjoy the processes of that. So, like, when we get in the shower, taking a moment to actually, like, you don't need an hour and a half to 3 hours of self-care. You can have 10 minutes in the shower and be fully present and enjoy the process of washing yourself and feeling the feelings of the water and how joyful that is and how wonderful and all that stuff. These little things actually do start elevating your vibration. These tiny little things that you can do. Cleaning yourself and your surroundings. And then comes the action. Like, those are all actions. You're moving forward. Then comes the, let me make a list of things that I don't like about what's going on right now. Like, what would I change about my situation? Like, I've had this happen where, myself included, but it's easier for us to recognize it when it's somebody else doing it. Like, where someone will complain to me over and over and over and over and over and over again about the same shit and take little to no action to change that situation. But they will bitch to me about it for 2.5 years. And I'm sitting there like, fucking do something. Like, and I've had to reality check myself with that. Like, do something about it then. So figure out, identify what it is that you dislike about your situation right now, and take active steps to change it. Doesn't matter if it's a job, a living situation, a person, like any of these things, the minute that you take action to change that or separate yourself from that, the powers that be, the universe, whatever the hell you want to call it, recognizes that you are like, hey, I ain't good with this anymore. And it will actually, things change, things will shift. The minute that you make an active decision to move an obstacle, you'll get rewarded for it. Time and time again, this has happened to me. And I always am like, oh my God, but it's too difficult. And it's going to be really hard. And I don't know if I want to do, and like the minute that you are like, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to jump off the diving board. I swear to you, things will line up, and it will seem messy in the beginning, but it's because things are being eliminated. It's going to maybe be painful, but like, I'm sorry, but life, like the best learning that you can do is through suffering. Like, hands down, pain is just something that we have to go through. It is part of the human experience, and to think that you can have a life without any pain or any suffering is like telling yourself that you don't want to grow. You don't want to grow. You don't want to have any like wherewithal or have anything, like beneficial to this life. You just want to be coddled and stay in the same stagnant place that you've always been in. That is a life without pain. That is boring and lame. You're on mute.
Yeah, I just realized I'm on mute because I have the thing come up. I realize that often, how do I put it? It's like there are two options. We can stay stagnant, stay the same, and not change and not grow, but that's still, there's a lot of pain and suffering in there as well.
Yeah.
Or we can choose to change and grow. There's going to be pain and suffering regardless, but one of them is a guaranteed reward in the end, and the other one guaranteed nothing in the end, because by you staying the same and not changing, you will continue to suffer.
Yeah.
But by you taking the steps, doing the work, moving yourself forward, you will continue to experience suffering and pain, which will eventually subside.
Yeah.
And you will also get a reward in the end. So those are the two options that we really have.
And with the taking action, like most of the time the suffering and pain is mostly being scared of the unknown. Like that is like, I think that's probably most of it is like, oh my God, if I quit this job, what am I gonna do? Like, first of all, I don't think anybody should just like quit their job. I'm not a person who's like, yeah, quit your job and then find a new job and then quit your job. Like, set yourself up so that you're not totally screwed. There's ways to like,
you're a freedom fighter, because a lot of those had to leave their jobs without a backup.
Yeah, but and that is an unknown, but you can actively, so like when they were doing that though, they were actively looking for a new position. They didn't just like the smart thing to do would be to actively be looking, because with every action that you do, you're sending out a signal like, hey, I'm ready for this. Like, I'm ready for a new opportunity. Anytime I have been in an abusive work relationship, because there's abusive, all sorts of things. There's abusive romantic, there's abusive familial, there's abusive work, there's abusive like living, there's like there can be abuse in any like situation that you're in. This is like a learning experience. Once again, the abuse is a learning experience. People used to do this on purpose back in like medieval times. They'd whip themselves because they thought it would bring like enlightenment. That's basically us now with these situations where we sit in an abusive thing and we're like, I'm just gonna take it. It's like, no, you don't have to take it. You can like make an active decision to go do something else. So like anytime, I'm just gonna bring up work. Anytime that I have been in a really bad work situation that's making me sad, every morning that I wake up, I'm like, oh my fucking God, I don't want to go to work. Like you literally get sick because you don't want to, those are signs in your body, in your spirit, that you need to make a new path for yourself. You need to take steps in a different direction. And if you continue to stay in this situation, you will remain stagnant. Health problems will pop up. You're going to have emotional problems, and maybe other aspects of your life will not move forward because you are your own worst enemy and you're sitting in this thing. So anytime that I've done this, I've found a new job, and maybe that new job will have abuses of its own. But I learned so much from that new job and those new abuses that I then leveled up the next time that I found. I've had so many jobs. I've been so many different things. I've been like a florist, a teacher, a mechanic, what else did I do? I worked at MIT. I've worked at Google. Like I've worked at all these places, and I am so grateful for the bad and the good experiences of every single one of those jobs, because like it showed me if I didn't like it, what I didn't want to do. Like, oh, cool. This is not for me. I thought that I wanted to do this. I lined up my whole life so that I could do this. And then I came to realize I don't want to do this. And I figured that out before it got too deep. You know what I mean? Like before I invested too much of myself in it, I figured out it wasn't for me. And then, I also maybe found something that I did enjoy. Like, what did I actually enjoy about this job? What were the things that brought me happiness while I was in it? Okay, let me take those away from that experience and move forward. Like, we need to stop harping on all, like, these people that are out there saying that working, oh my God, it's oppressive, it's awful, it's hateful, it's whatever. Those people just haven't figured out what they want to do, because every little human on the planet has some purpose for society. We'll use society as a word. And without you doing that, you become depressed. Without you adding something, you have you are unpurposeful. You become depressed, like feeling lost. Like, yeah. We all have a job to do. Work is very good for people. Abusive situations are learning situations. It's up to us to then be like, okay, what do I want? Like, what do I want my work to look like? Like, you made that decision for yourself. You're like, I want to work for myself. I want to help people. I want to do it in this way. You made that a reality for yourself. I did the same thing. I was like, okay, what did I really like from my other jobs? I liked to help people. I like to heal people. I like to help people figure out what's best for them. I like working with the earth. I like reading. You can make your own personalized thing. It doesn't have to be working at Taco Bell. Some people love working at Taco Bell. Some people are like, this is my favorite job I've ever had. I get free food. I come in here. I do mindless work. I don't have to think too much. That's great for them. Like, we need to stop judging what other people's experiences are and start figuring out what's good for us. And work is not a bad thing. Like, that's another thing. Like, people without work, there's a reason they become depressed and they start using drugs. It's because they don't have a purpose. They don't have a direction. They don't have someone being like, hey, like, use your hands, do something actively. Like, we need to do stuff like that. We can't just like sit on our asses all day. Like, it's maybe there's a few of us that's sitting on our butts and doing nothingness and doing something like a call service. That's their best job ever. Like, cool. You do you, baby girl. Like, like that's like, you got like a shock. You looked up. Like, I just think
my son dropped something that was really loud right above, and it's perfect timing for what you were saying.
Yeah, like, you do you. You do you. Like, I think everybody needs to stop judging each other and stop saying that what they want for them is what they want for everybody, because it's not the same for everybody. Everybody, like, the human spirit is very much unified, but everybody is very independent in like what they need. Like,
and that's why I feel like right now would be a perfect time to add that we all need to take the time to figure out who is it that we really want to be and how we want to be. And I feel like this could be used as a challenge for everybody who's watching. Get off social media. Get off social media for at least 1 week. don't go on it while you're working on yourself and you're trying to figure this stuff out, because you will start to see just how much social media influences you.
Yeah. And
The
it makes
state of the world right now, huge part of social media.
like I remember like being on social media like 5 years ago and looking at what other people were doing and be like, why am I not doing that? You know what I mean? Like it's like because I don't want it. Like I don't need that stuff. That's why I'm not doing it. I don't need that. I don't need to know how to put like 50,000 makeup products on my face. Like I don't need to do that. I don't need to go on like a vacation to Cabo. Like I don't like mosquitoes. Like I like you know what I mean? Like it's just like we're being taught to want what like it's all ego. It's very much ego based. And also like this whole like figuring yourself out, it is not going to be overnight. Like we are very complicated beings. I'm still learning things about myself and I have like moments where I'm like, wow, I'm really cool. Like that's a really cool thing about me. Like I didn't think about that before. Like you are your own best friends and it like I spent so long hating myself and like nitpicking myself in the mirror and nitpicking like certain aspects of my personality that I was like, oh, I'm too aggressive, I'm too harsh, I'm too this. Fuck, the world needs me right now. The world needs you right now. Like the world needs everybody, like the way that they come, like packaged. Like that's we just have to learn what is actually us and what is a product of what we're being fed and what cycles we need to break from our parental stuff. Like it's all part of the package. It's like that is your own unique journey. And when we think of it as like, oh, I need to figure myself out, that's like really daunting. That's like a lot. That's it's like, whoa, that's like a huge like I don't know if I'm but it's little spoonfuls.
Well, that's
And
how I started as well. It was
yeah,
we all the spiritual awakening, like you were saying before, the one of the videos that we've done before, that how it's different for everyone. We've all go through spiritual awakening in a different way, but we experience it in a similar ways, whether we experience a lot of pain and suffering. And spiritual awakening, by the way, is not something that just happens once and goes away. It happens for some of us like it's like almost every week or every so often or every month. And you go through like very often, the best way how you can tell, pay attention to you how you go through your day, and the things that you start putting away. You'll notice that there's certain things that you do that make you feel good and you start avoiding doing them. That is how you can tell that you're heading in for another spiritual awakening, because by you not doing the things that fuel you, that make you feel good, you start to go down a little bit, you start to
yeah.
feel down. And that serves a purpose as well,
Mhm.
because it's like the what you were talking about, when you abusive work experience or abusive experience, that is an abusive experience that you're about to embark on your own, that you are going to be basically going through the dirt and muck. But every flower needs the dirt and the muck. We all need that.
Mhm.
And that is what happens when we start to when we go through the first spiritual awakening. Some people go through it early in the years, some people go later. That's why often people will say they're in their what's the phrase when you go in like in your 30s or your 40 midlife crisis.
Yeah.
They go through their midlife crisis. Oh my god.
I
It's called
like
spiritual awakening.
I hate and love that term. I hate and love it because I feel like we go through like a bajillion of those. You know,
Yeah.
like it's not just like a myth. Like I got this tattoo. It's an unalum. So I don't know if you can see it, and I can't really
Looks
twist
like
my.
a feather. Oh, like on a
It's
long
like
side with a
it's a
feather.
very you can Google it. It's a meandering line, and it's supposed to kind of show the path to enlightenment. And it goes up and it goes down, and it's all around. Like the path of awakening and enlightenment, I think, is like when you die. So people need to stop thinking that like, oh, when I finally do all this stuff, I'll hit enlightenment. No, like when you turn into a light body, when you die, that's enlightenment. Like, oh, I've reached the pinnacle. Like, like, but we go through all these ups and downs and they all serve a purpose. Like, and I wish that And I've gotten to the point finally that when bad things are presented to me or when something is not going my way, I take a moment and I go, okay, this is a learning experience. I am learning right now. And it actually helps me get through it a lot better. Like, you can cry, you can wallow a little bit, not too much, you can wallow a little bit, but like actively sit in that feeling. I've gotten through so many addictions doing that. Like, where if, they're like, even with pot, like smoking weed and then having like a panic attack, like that happens. I'm sure that happens to like a lot of people where you're like, oh my God, like I'm dying. Like sitting in that moment and being like, okay, this is what this feels like. And being like, do I really want to do this to myself again? like, do I really want to put myself through this feeling? Is it worth it? Like, and then I'm able to let go of ganja. You know what I mean? It's not serving a purpose for me anymore. I did that with cigarettes. I remember I cheated after quitting and I had a cigarette and I felt like I was dying. My body was like, ugh, what are you doing? Like, it was freaking out. I felt sick. I thought I was going to faint. Like, I thought I was going to puke at the same time. I was like, oh my God. And then I made myself sit in it. I made myself sit in it and be like, okay, this is what this feels like. Do you really want to do this to yourself again? When I was in an abusive relationship, my last one, and I had been through so many, like when I was in my final one, I made myself sit in it. And I was like, okay, this is what is happening right now that I dislike. How is this person treating me? What is it making me feel like? Identify those feelings. Identify how horrible and sad and awful and all of that. Feel it. Like, feel the hell out of it. Like, really just memorize what that feels like. And then say, not again. I'm not doing this again. The minute that someone makes me feel this way, I know, okay, I'm heading into dangerous territory. Like, we got to get out of here. So, like, really coming into communion with your body. And you're like, that's another thing with mental health. Really, like, so many times we experience trauma and we leave our bodies. We detach, we disassociate, we like float up here. We're not really like in here anymore. It's a very, like, they've even discovered this with psychology. They call it disassociation. Like, it's, I think, a spiritual thing. We disconnect because our bodies are not safe. Our spirit has learned that it's not safe to be there. And actually, with children who have experienced a lot of trauma, sometimes they'll die because it's just too much for their spirit to stay in their body anymore. It's no longer like when they experience a lot of trauma. So if you experience that throughout your life, chances are you need to start grounding. We hear this word a lot, but I don't know if people really understand what that means. Like, they're just like, I'm grounding. And I'm like, are you grounding? Like, so I hear I'm grounding, I'm meditating. Like, these like buzzwords, there's buzzwords for every side of things, but
I know, right?
oh my God, the grounding. Like, okay, so for me,
Explain it to the people.
yeah, just like, it's like Jesus. So grounding for me is, it took a lot of making things safe, like making myself feel safe, and once again, cleaning is a grounding thing. Meditative things doesn't have to just be lotus position. Like, it could be like anything. Like, you find
like this.
yeah, you could be like laying on the ground. You could go outside gardening. You can go for a walk. Walks are very grounding. Like, like when you feel the ground underneath and you're like actively moving forwards, that does something to you when you're walking.
Especially with no shoes.
Yeah, with no shoes, you could do that. Or just walking in general. You're making a forward path that your body actually responds to that. It feels like you're actually doing something. So when you feel like you're in a rut, a walk can be like an amazing thing for you. These are like really great tools that you should keep in your belt buckle so that when you have an uncomfortable situation pop up, or you're feeling icky, or you're like you could go through and be like, okay, what do I need right now? You can muscle test yourself. Do you know how to muscle test yourself? I'm
Yes.
throwing out so much information right now. I'm doing the host thing.
Exactly.
So
Crash
muscle
course.
testing. There's many different ways. Like some people do the thing. I don't like any of those because I'm like, oh, I don't know. I can't tell, you know. Like, so this is the one that I like the most. It's this finger and this finger. You make two little O's. You put them together like a daisy chain, and you test. So always start out with like a test question. So you go, okay, my name is Yana. It slips because my name is Yana. All right.
Mine doesn't.
My name, yeah, yours stays. So my name is Rochelle, and it stops.
Yeah, mine doesn't.
I do it really hard because sometimes I'm like, where is it? So if you're unsure about what you need, like if it's a food and you're sitting in line trying to decide on what to order and you don't know what your body wants the most, you could be like, okay, do I want a cheeseburger? No. Okay, do I want like the soup with salmon? Like, yes. Okay, so and it could happen with something like, do I need to go for a walk? If you really can't get in your mind enough to like make a good decision and you need to take action with something immediately, you can always muscle test yourself. But you should have a list of things to do to bring you comfort, for like things personally that I have found that work for me: gardening, going outside, going for a walk, cleaning, making tea. If I'm feeling especially like all over the place and like I can't get my shit together, I go and I make myself a pot of tea. And the ritual of making a pot of tea sometimes is enough to just like get me centered. Like there are different things that you can do. Find out what those things are for you, and I guarantee it will help you to bring yourself centered long enough for you to be like, okay, what do I need to do for myself right now? Like, do I need to actively make big decisions? Or is a little decision like, okay, do I need to just like clean, or do I have to go grocery shopping, or do I have to, you know, like you can get yourself settled enough to make things like that happen. Because I another buzzword, anxiety. Like
Yes.
like okay, cool. I think everybody has anxiety. We need to stop thinking that that's like something special. Like um when you deal with that, grounding, actually grounding, settling yourself in your body, coming back in is the best and only thing that you can do to like try and quell that, because it's like a shaking. It's like a not being inside your meat suit. Like you're just kind of like out here. You need to come back in. I think that I don't know what people are, sometimes I don't know what people are doing. I'm like, I read these like mental health things and I'm like, wow, they're just like focusing on victimhood. They're just focusing on like, it seems like there's like a lot of entitlement. Like that's another
Well,
thing.
I think it's marketing as well, because a lot of people will
Yeah.
post things out there, but in a way that markets and speaks directly to these people. So, for example, the name of this topic for today is speaking to specific people who are in victimhood, who
Yeah.
are what is referred to level one energy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a low level frequency energy. And when I
The
see
lowest one, yeah.
like, okay, another thing that I see is boundaries. Like boundaries are in a very like a very very important thing in order for you to like make yourself feel safe again. Like people want to talk about safety all the time. Like yeah, all right, we need boundaries in like personal relationships, and to be like, hey, that doesn't make me feel good. But at the same time, the world will make you feel uncomfortable. It is not the responsibility of the world to make you feel comfortable. It is your responsibility to make you feel comfortable. Like, if someone is triggering you online, going and messaging them and being like, your account is triggering me, I think that you should, like, I'm unfollowing you, like, just unfollow them. Like, it is up to you and your personal like to make you feel safe, not everybody else. The world is a dangerous place of like weird sharp objects. Like we can't have the world bend to us. That is a very egocentric, very narcissistic, very entitled. Like, you want to talk about privilege. How privileged is it to think that everybody should bend to what you think the world should look like? It doesn't work that way.
But aren't you a queen? Everyone should bow to the queen.
In your head, you could be a queen. Like, even though I think that's the most inflated ego thing ever, like, I'm just a person. It's just like, I have a, like, being queen sounds like a lot of responsibility. I don't
A meat bag, I guess, or yeah, a meat suit. I'm walking around my meat suit.
I'm a meat suit. I'm a meatball. Like, I just, like, I already have a lot of responsibility. I don't want to think about being a queen. Like, you have to rule over like, that's just so like, that just seems I don't want that. Have you watched any of the Crown stuff, like, on Netflix? Like, geez,
No, thank you. It's too much. Too exhausting to watch.
yeah, it seems exhausting and boring, and just, I wouldn't want that. Like, this, yeah. So this idea that we're all queens and we're all princes, like, screw that. Like, you are your own person. Do what you need to do for you, but don't expect other people to bend to you all the time. Boundaries are just being like, hey, like, your direct action to me right now is it's not cool. Like, so either I can remove myself from this situation, or if you wouldn't mind, could you stop touching me? You know what I mean? Like when people are really touchy feely with me, that bugs me out. I'm like, bro, like, stop tapping me, stop touching me, like, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Wow.
that's a boundary. But I've seen too many times that people are like, well, I know what, like going on group adventures with people. I have encountered people be like, well, I really need this and this and this for myself. So you need to do this and this because that's my boundary. It's like, no, you're taking away from my experience because you want like, that's not a boundary. That's you feeling entitled to everything. Like, there is a difference between someone feeling entitled because of, like, them wanting to be, you know what I mean? If you are going to go on a group trip with someone, or you're going to be in a group setting, there are some things that you're going to have to compromise on. Everybody has different needs. Everybody has different boundaries. Everybody, like, you know what I mean? Like, there are some times when we need to compromise. If there's something that you can't compromise on, then take a sit out for a little bit. Like, I have a lot of social anxiety, like, whatever you want to call that. Like, big group settings, like, a lot of people's energies, like, okay, gonna say another buzzword, empaths. Like, so, like, you have it in your name. So a lot of us who are spiritually attuned are empathic. I feel like it's just like a thing now. It's just as much
I think
as
it's just being a human being, really. A sensitive human being.
like, we're all
of us are.
have the ability to sense energy. It is part of the innate human experience. Like, that's how you sense danger. Like, if you don't have that sensor, something happened where you shut it off, and you have to learn how to put it back on without fainting all the time. Like, that's like, because that will happen. You'll go through an intermittent period where you're sensitive to everything. You're just like, you shut down. It happened to me. I was like fainting all the time. So what you have to do is then realize, okay, what does it feel like before I start to get really overwhelmed? What are the things that I can do for myself to make sure that I don't get to a really bad point, where I go into something which is like a spinning mode, or I go into a fainting thing, or I start picking up on other people's emotions so much that I can't differentiate between what is me and what is somebody else.
Yep.
A lot of time, like, when I'm in group settings, I will walk away. I will go for a walk by myself. I will go sit next to a plant, and I'll be like, hey plant, like, hi tree, like, hey sun, I'm like out here in this field by myself. Like, it is okay to be alone. Like, too many people, that's another thing we're gonna talk about. We're just rolling. Like, I think I see a lot of people too that are like really unhealthy emotionally, not be alone. There's like this part of the healing experience where everybody wants to be they feel like they have to be around people constantly. They can't be left alone. They need to have tons and tons of friends because something about that makes them feel okay or something, but it really doesn't. Once you realize, you're like, oh shit, this actually isn't good for me. There's a joy in solitude. Like, we definitely need human interaction to survive. Like, we need it. With like this isolation crap that's happening right now, very purposeful, because we need each other, and we need to see each other's faces and communicate and feel each other's vibration and all of that to be healthy. We definitely need that to be not sick. You need that experience. You also need to be exposed to germs. Germs are actually good. I had a biology teacher in high school tell me that antibacterial stuff and that is bad, and it actually breeds stronger bacteria that's resistant to antibiotics. And not just that, but like he let his kid eat crap off the ground and like eat dirt and all that. He's building a microbiome that's strong when he's doing that stuff. So we need to be exposed to things. We can't live in fear. Fear totally depletes the immune system. And we need to be exposed to each other and the little beings that come along with that are riding on this meat suit. Like, we need that. We need facial expressions. We need to feel heard and to have a communion of energy when we're around each other. Like, it can be draining at times, like, but we need a little dose of it now and then. We can't be living through Zoom forever. Like, we need to have interpersonal communication.
Yeah.
But with that said, being alone is like one of the only ways that you can get to know yourself. It's like, and like what your needs and your wants are, to figure out your own thought patterns, to really isolate what is you from everybody else. In terms of like energy, I didn't understand that a lot of what I was feeling, and I'd get really down on myself about it. I'd be like, why are you such a like why are you this and why are you that to myself? When I was realizing I was just picking up on other people's anger. Like, I was picking up on other people's stuff, and I didn't know how to wash it away at the end of the day. It was sticking to me. Like, energy clearing is a real thing. Knowing how to decompress at the end of the day and like sit with yourself and be like, okay, like, what does it feel like to be me again, and not in these different, facets of life every day. Like, I used to hate being by myself. I used to absolutely hate it because I didn't like myself at all. And that's directly what it came from, was that I had been told by people my whole life and by myself that I was such an awful person that I didn't even know who I actually was, and I couldn't sit with myself. And it took a lot of time of self-care, learning rituals and routines for myself, kind of unpacking like a lot of so many buzzwords, like unpacking a lot of like, okay, what has been done to me? All right, is me being a victim in that situation actually me? No, it's just something that happened to me, and I can learn to either grow from it or let it go completely. So you start to kind of like do that, and it takes a long time to filter through all the bullshit that has happened or stuck to you or whatever. It's going to take time. It's not going to be done in just one night. There's shit that's still coming up for me, like from my childhood, that I was like, whoa, I thought that was already dealt with. Like, and I'm just like in the shower, and I'm just like, and I'm like, and then I take a moment and I go through it, and I'm like, wow, I just learned a new thing about myself. I just like, I did a thing. So I think being alone is like such a blessing. It is like really Like I love, like, honestly, if you ask me like, hey, would you rather hang out at a party or go for a walk by yourself? I'd be like, walk by myself. Any like any single, like, any time that you ask me, I'd be like, I'd rather go for a walk by myself.
Right? It's a lot more fun that way. And
I
also, as you're talking about being alone, I want to add the one word or two words actually in silence,
mhm,
because that's why we, earlier mentioned no social media,
mhm.
where you take the week to, I know, right? It's like, oh my God, no social media, no social media, no Netflix, no Disney Plus or Disney Minus, whatever you watch, right? No external information coming in, and just sitting with yourself and what you already have,
Mhm.
and figuring out who you are in the midst of all this noise that you still are carrying from external sources.
Yeah. Well, okay, so the Instagram social media is very noisy. I don't like, I've said this to a lot of different people, and some people like look at me like I'm a crackhead or something. Like like when I say that social media is noisy, like it is
Yes.
like there are so many different like voices, like it's just like a bunch of people screaming at the top of their lungs for attention. Like that's what I hear like internally, like vibrationally, when I'm like on there. And it also feels like something's like getting pulled out of me, like my consciousness is being sucked out through my eyeballs for this like application, and that may or may not be happening in real life, like I don't know. But because I've learned to become in tuned with my body finally after so many damn years of it, like I can recognize that, oh, this just does not make me feel good. And there's a lot of people that need to be on social media because they have like a business like you, or and they need, I think the important thing is to not be on there for too long at a time. Like,
Well, there's ways around it as well.
yeah,
Like, I don't go on there and post every single day.
yeah,
I have a platform where it's all pre-scheduled and it comes out, so I don't have to be present there every day.
yeah. Or you could just like, you can have that, which is really great. That's a wonderful tool. Or you can learn, just like with eating and stuff, what your limit is when you're full, or when you're like feeling a certain way. Like when you start to feel like anger, just like constantly, or you're just like, oh, like I just don't feel good, like something's happening to me internally, putting it down. Like people need to recognize when they've had enough, and
A
they need to
boundary.
give. Yeah.
I call that a boundary. Setting a boundary with yourself and with your devices. It's
Yes.
very important. You started to feel off, is what I call it. Whenever you start to feel off, out of balance, you
Yeah.
can quickly tell. Sometimes it's not like right away that you tell, not in the first second, but you can, within a few minutes, you can tell, okay, it's off.
Yeah.
And just like
When
Cheryl said,
when I'm like
put the foot
getting into
down.
like when I start feeling myself wanting to respond, like when I want to like, when I start wanting to like post
I know.
comments, and I'm like, oh, this, oh no, you know what I mean? Then I'm like, oh, wait, there, it's,
No,
yeah, gotta put it down.
walk
Because
away.
the goal, I think, for a lot of this stuff is to create an emotional imbalance in people, which is another form of control. If they can get you to be in an emotional state, a heightened emotional state, you are very easily controlled and manipulated. And that happens with all this identity ego stuff. Like with all these teachings, they talk about letting go of the ego. I don't think you have to let go of the ego completely. I don't think that's possible. I think
Yeah, I don't think it's possible.
I think it's needed in order to interact with this physical plane. I think you need like, oh,
Yeah.
my hair is just like, um, but like I think you need it to like, to not be like a light beam, that can't touch anything physical. Like I think you need the ego. So I think the better way of putting it is ego integration. But when you are constantly in a state of ego, like so everything that has to do with identity. So like when people say things that, or say that things are racist, and people don't even like really think about it, they're just like, oh my god, it's racist, and they like freak out. They're like in an emotional heightened state immediately. You're being controlled.
Yeah.
When things are called white supremacy, or they're called homophobic or transphobic or istophobe or whatever, like,
Label, some strong
yeah,
label that has identity.
those are all things that have to do with the identity. You can be these things. You can be like gay or lesbian or black or white or whatever. But when we adhere to those identities and we make them who we are, like to a point where we don't even really know the intricacies of who we are then manipulated. This is actually, if you look into different forms of warfare, this is often used, and previously it's been through religious. So religious means, and class. So like it was always like, you hear about the bourgeoisie and all that kind of stuff. They use the same warfare previously to create civil unrest between the people. Notice that none of these like high up people are arguing amongst themselves about identity. None of them are doing that. They're laughing at us because they're like, oh, these peasants, they're all just stupid and they're doing their thing down there. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
we're being played. We're totally being played. And I think they know that a lot of this has to do with the human spirit. And we're not going to be focused on becoming the best version. Like I said in the beginning of this video, we're not going to be focused on becoming the best version of ourselves when we're so hyper focused on the ego. Like and victimhood and how you're hurting me, like instead of making active change for ourselves. So like, we're not going to go anywhere if we keep focusing on this. And I just, it makes me so sad because it's like, I see the potential in everybody, but when you're like, I use this example a lot. When I was younger, I was told by my parent that I was never going to amount to anything. I was a piece of shit, that I was worthless and all this stuff. And you start to believe it. So what's happening right now? You see the media and everybody around us saying on a bunch of different fronts, like whether you be like, you know, a certain race or like gender identity, whatever. They're like, oh, you're being oppressed. You're never going to be as good as these other people because this is how society's set up. And these people are believing it. They're believing like, oh, I'm less than. That's what you're telling yourself every time you feed into that. Oh, I'm less than. Oh, I'm being oppressed. Oh, I'm like, and you start putting that into every fiber of your being, and you're going to stay down. You're going to continue to be oppressed. You're going to continue to not make progress because you've come to believe that with your heart and soul, that that's all that you can amount to. And there's something so profound with someone who thinks that every possibility is open to them. Like when people start believing in the law of attraction and positivity, like positive thinking, like I think it's impossible to be positive all the time. I think that's a really unhealthy, like I think it's like really messed up to tell people you have to be positive all the time. Like you can't think bad thoughts or bad things are going to happen to you. That is impossible. It's going to drive you crazy. You're going to be like, how am I can't do this. Like, I can't just be positive all the time.
Our minds are not wired that way.
No, it's like you said before, it's an active choice to choose, okay, I'm presented with a really negative situation. I can either get really emotionally volatile over it and in a heightened emotional negative state, or I could choose to kind of be disgruntled about it because you're still gonna have some of that residual stuff.
Oh yeah.
And actively try to make a change with that. Like, like I'm with the milk. I'm going to be frustrated that I have to clean up the milk, but I'm going to clean it up and I'm going to think about how this is going to be done in a little bit. Like, I'm going to be done cleaning this in a bit and then it's going to be over. And this kid is going to help me clean up the milk and we're going to learn and experience together. I one of the most powerful things throughout life is, for me personally, and this is different for other people, is that whenever someone told me I couldn't do something, I'd be like, watch me, like, watch me do it. Like, so I really wish that these people that feel that they're being oppressed and that people are saying they can't do this and they can't do that, and that, like, and oppression is like everywhere, apparently. Like, it's like all states of being are being oppressed. It's not just one identity that's like, pick one and someone can find something, like, so I'm really trying not to offend people, but maybe people need to be offended a little bit. But
Well, sometimes, yeah, we do need to be offended so that way we can
yeah,
actually pause and take a look at the actual.
be curious about
Yeah,
why. Why
yeah,
are you becoming heightened emotionally by someone just saying certain things? But when
usually because of
someone,
the truth.
yeah, so when someone is being like, oh, you are this, therefore you can't do this, try saying, watch me. Like, try, be like, oh yeah? Well, I'm gonna do something then. I'm gonna go do it. Like, every time someone has told, I've been so allergic to people telling me I can't do something. I've been like, oh yeah? Well, I'm gonna go do it. And sometimes it's not to my benefit. Sometimes it's like a lesson that I need to learn. Because,
Right.
like, for instance, I grew up really poor. Identity. There we go. I was poor. Like, and college was not an option for me. All right. Like, it was like, I didn't even think about college. I was just like, I'm doing drugs and living out of my car. Like, I don't care about college. So, like, like, I had a professor at community college because I thought that was what I was supposed to do, and I could go for free because we were so poor. Like, you can get offered free community college here. Like, these are things that we have available that people don't understand that they're available. So I went to the community college. I had a professor who had a tough love type of deal. And like, and he was like, well, what are your plans? Because I was picking out my courses for the next semester and I just didn't care. I was just like, whatever. And he was like, well, what are your plans for the future? And I'm like, I don't know. Like,
Sure, I'm not having that.
I was like, I'll go to this college. I just, like, named a college. Like, I didn't even know anything about this college. I didn't know, like, what I would do there. I just heard somebody else say it. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll go to this one. And he's like, you're not gonna be able to go to that college. You don't have a portfolio. Your grades aren't even that great right now. Like, you have no idea what you're doing. You haven't even written a letter to go in there. You haven't even gotten your stuff together. You haven't even done, like, your SATs. Like, you haven't, like, he's like, what do you think? What, you think you're gonna write a bunch of shit on napkins and you're gonna get accepted? And I was like, I got so offended, and I was like, well, watch me. You just watch me, dude. I'm gonna get in and you're gonna eat it. I'm gonna get in and you're gonna just have to suck it up, and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. And what happened? I got into that college because I busted my ass and I, like, took action. And it turns out that I hated my experience with that college.
But you proved him wrong.
So, but that's the thing, though. I took action. The universe was like, oh, you want this, and gave it to me, and it turned out to not be what I wanted. But it was because I sent signals that I wanted to do it. And the only reason I was able to even go there was because I got a full scholarship, and all these things lined up for me so that I could go. And then I hated it. And I was like, wow, the art world isn't for me. I don't like this school. Everything is really cliquey. People are really aggressive. Like, like, it was like the beginnings of, like, all these identity politics were, like, at this school. And, like, I was seeing it and I was like, I don't know if I want to be like, you guys are like being kind of like aggro. Like, I don't really like, why are you so mean? Like, why are you so judgmental? Like, so I learned really quickly, like, this isn't for me. But I stuck it out, and I stayed in the abusive situation, and that until I could get out of it. Now I have a piece of paper that says I did it. But like, what is it? You know what I mean? Like, learning experience. I learned that that was not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then it brought me to another place and another place. And then I started trying on different things. That's the whole point of life. Like, when you start realizing that no matter your circumstance, no matter if you're poor, no matter what color your skin is, no matter what your sexuality is, no matter what your religion is, no matter where you come from, this place, this interactive VR like experience that we have going on here is literally just made so that you can try on as many outfits and ways of life and experiences that you want. And it's just a matter of you getting out of your own way. So like learning your tools to ground, learning what you want, like listening to yourself and what your soul is aligned to. Like, okay, do I want to become a lawyer or do I want to become a farmer? Like, what feels good? What could I see myself doing? What can I do so that I can try these things out without getting too deep? Like maybe working in a law office as an assistant and looking at what they're doing. And, like there's different ways of like, there's so many things that are open to people if they just understand that it's there. The possibility is real. It can happen. And you just have to make the choice that, okay, I want this.
You have to want it bad enough.
Yeah. Like you not even just want it bad enough, because I think we want a lot of things that are really bad for us. Like, 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 like I really wanted pills and I took like, you know what I mean? Like but it was a learning experience. But like, I think like I like working at Google, like I saw how unhappy people were in these positions that people like look up to, and they're like, oh my God, if only I worked there. Like, you know what I mean? Like those people weren't happy. They were like living at that office. They were like literally sleeping in sleep pods and like offered 3 meals a day and never saw their family and never like what would be ideal? Like, like I just don't think people understand how bendable reality is. Like
No, they don't.
Like it's like
They don't.
I mean, and I see
Very elusive. It's like one of those secrets that everybody wants to know,
yeah.
but not that many people understand that reality is like when I say this, I can understand it on a cellular level, is like my body understands it. Reality is what you make it. That's
Yeah.
it. Reality is what you make it be, what you make out of it, how you look at things, how you perceive things. If you don't like what you see,
Change it.
and you can't change what you see, change the way you see it, and what you
Yeah.
see will change.
That is
It really
exactly.
all starts right in here. And we all want to, like, what we're all striving for is a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah.
And
And
everybody wants it.
so then you get presented with, and I have been one of these people where you're like, oh, I hate this, I hate my life, I hate everything, and then someone starts listing off all the things you could do. They're like, okay, well, try this, try this, try this, and you're like, I can't do any of those things. Like,
People didn't come up with them.
exactly. You have to, it comes from whether quitting a drug, quitting a relationship, changing the life path, whatever, it has to start with you. Like, someone could give you all the opportunities that you could possibly ever ask for. And if you aren't ready, you're not going to notice it, take it, utilize it, none of that. You're just going to be like, I can't do it right now. Like, you have to make the, like, none of this shit changed for me until I made the active decision to I literally one time on New Year's, I went to this party and we were doing like a New Year's ritual or whatever that is. And we all said what we wanted to give up for that year. What did we want to give up? And the it went around the circle and it got to me and I said, I want to stop being a victim. Because I was so that was my whole identity was being a victim. So I said, I want to stop being a victim. And the minute that I stopped doing that and I stopped focusing on it and I stopped blaming everybody else for my problems and I started seeing what I was doing was the minute that shit changed for me. So, and I've seen it happen with many, many people. And I've I've given like tough love to people who are like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, do something.
But here's the thing though, by still also saying that I don't know what to do, we take power away from ourselves because I, as a coach, know not only was it taught in school, but also my life and other people's life experience has taught me that we all have answers to all the questions we're asking. We just are too scared to believe in our own knowledge. And for most people, like I see this often, and I have been there myself. Um, we only change when we can no longer put up with the suffering that we are going through, that we're dealing with. And that if you continue to suffer and you continue to do it and suffer and you do it consciously, it just simply means that you haven't suffered enough, or you don't believe you have suffered enough, and that you don't believe you paid your dues for whatever bad you have done in your life, whether you are aware of it consciously or not. Yeah. That could be another list that you can do. Write down the things that you want to apologize for, right? Things that you can't really fix them, but things that you want to apologize for and take ownership. Because like Shell was saying, it starts with acknowledgement, right? Just like any addiction, being depressed is an addiction as well. Yep. I know many people will probably argue with me, but those are the ones that are still not ready to understand the truth and don't understand the truth. I was one of those people, and I would have argued with you until I was red in the face and you were red in the face as well. But all of these things, like I said, depression is an addiction. And when we become addicted to something, we can't help it. And it's really hard to see the cycle. So in order for us to stop that cycle, we'll first need to see it and catch it in this track. It's like a cat running around. And then you're like, oh, I see you. And they're like, oh, okay, you got me. So
but
that's
doing something different. Making one decision that is different from your pattern.
Yes, starts with one tiny decision.
Just one time, like I said, like you're living in a mess, make the decision to clean your room. Because like if you believe in like the butterfly theory, like whatever, like oh my god, like a drop in the pond, like the waves, like you know what I mean? All those different sayings, whatever they are. Like one little action can have a massive wave of reaction. Like changing one thing leads to like a growing confidence to do other things in your life. Like and it starts with tiny little things. I don't know how many times people have come to me and been like, everything just seems so overwhelming. Like the picture is like just my whole life is a mess. It's like cool. Focus on like a pixel of the entire picture. Like, okay, go pluck your eyebrows. You know what I mean? Like go do like.
But I'm glad that you mentioned confidence, because that's actually what it is. When we as human beings are in that victim state, they don't have very much confidence, and that's why they're not doing too many things, like even making the room. When you make up your room, and like for you said that's what you needed. For me, it was staying awake because I just wanted to sleep all day long. So for me, if I stayed awake and didn't go back for a nap and another nap and another nap, because I really just did not want to be in this reality, I wanted to be in this reality, right? So I went within, like literally, and I would constantly be in like meditative state, and I did meditations and I slept. That was my cocooning, and so I can come out and be the butterfly, right? The one you were talking about. But for me, it was just staying awake. For you, it was cleaning the room and the space. And then for me also, it was cleaning the room and the space, right? All these little things. And it starts with a little bit. And if I stayed awake for, if I didn't take a nap in the middle of the day, I felt confident in my ability to take the next step and the next step and the next step. And that's why for all of us, it's something different that we need. That's something, the small little action that we can take that will give us a little bit of confidence back. Because when we're in that level of victimhood, level one, we don't have very much confidence. We don't have very much belief. We don't have very much hope. We're completely hopeless and
Confidence
feel useless.
confidence is the antithesis of like victimhood. Like it is like you can't be a victim and confident. Like
You can't be grateful and be depressed at the same time either. I
no,
remember when I posted that, I got such a huge backlash for that. So I'm saying it again. You really cannot be grateful and depressed at the same time.
no,
You
you
can
can't.
try to be grateful, but those are two different emotional states.
They're polarities. So it's
Yeah.
like we want like if you live too much in positivity and too much in like the light or whatever, that's mania. Like so you're like constantly man like probably not. You don't want to live in that, like, because then it's like too much of the endorphins, too much of a good thing. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing. You want to find balance. So like when you feel yourself being taken over by negative thoughts and stuff like that, like you said, finding things to just like be like, okay, well, what am I grateful for right now? Like when I was in these depressive states, like my mama, my like the one person that I have in my life that's a parent that like I'm so grateful for her. She gave me a rock. We found a rock on one of our walks, and she wrote, "What am I grateful for?" And like put that on the rock. And she said, "Put it in your pocket, and every time you feel it in your pocket, think of something that you're grateful for." Because I was in such a mental rut that I like needed a reminder, like little things like that. Put it on the bulletin board. What am I grateful for?
Yeah, the necklace.
Bunch of post-it notes throughout your house. Yeah, there you go.
I like
Like
to put in a necklace. Like I'll put a few different things that I have on here. I think it was four. Some of them just remind me because this was my husband's necklace when he was a baby. So my mother-in-law was really interested to see it on me. I was like, ah, it's mine now. You're not taking it. But it's really like another technique for grounding. You ground yourself. You bring yourself back to yourself, to your roots, and you, as some people say, you become selfish and you think about yourself, but it's not a selfish thing to do, right? the one eye roll. I like that.
yeah, like I can't.
But something like a rock, you put
Yeah.
in your pocket. For me, I like it in a necklace because I don't have pockets, and bracelets don't do it for me. So for me, it's on my neck, and I grab my necklace very often, and I have different meanings, different questions, different attachments to each one, and I just kind of go through the ones that I have on here and
Yeah.
answer those questions.
Yeah. It's just like
Actually answer
there's
them.
there's so many grounding techniques. There's also like sitting with your body and feeling all of your different like limbs and stuff, like
Yeah.
gradually moving up, being like, I feel my toes and I feel this.
Yeah.
And it really brings you back into your meat suit. You're like not
Or
out here anymore.
screaming. For some
What?
people, they'll scream into a pillow. That's their
Yeah,
grounding. It's
grounding.
vocal releasing whatever is being pent up.
I mean, going to the gym and punching a punching bag, also grounding. Like I like
Punching the wall. Why not?
shadow boxing. This was something that whenever I got really, really angry, like all the time, I do. Like I had one psychologist tell me, okay, ball your fists up like this and do like tighten all your muscles like a lot, like tighten them and then slowly go out like you're punching something and then bring it back in. And you can only do that for so many times, like, and it actually feels like you went and you punched a bunch of stuff and you released a bunch of energy. There's non-violent ways of doing that,
Yeah.
like you don't have to go fight somebody. Like you could just there's ways of releasing, there's like painting, there's like I don't know, there's like so many different forms. It's about trying things out and seeing what brings you back in and brings you a little bit of joy in the process, makes you feel relieved. Like I mean, everybody gets like baking. Oh my God, baking for me, like cooking, like I super grounding. Like I'm like, let me make, I'm stressed out. Let me make a cake, like, like there are so many different ways. It's never ending. Like my freezer is filled with baked goods because I literally, like, when I feel like the world is spinning and I'm just like a dot on it and it's like super freaking overwhelming, I bring myself back to and I'm like, okay, what can I do right now? My house is already clean. I can't go for a walk because it's freezing outside. Like, I'm gonna bake. And it makes your house smell really yummy and you have all these delicious things to eat and it reminds you of like comforting times. Like there's things to bring yourself joy. I think that people need to cultivate joy. Like I see that sometimes, like cultivate joy. um yeah, learn how to do that. Like, what does
Yeah,
that look like?
and that's how we cure the the mental blocks, mental health that we have. I know there's some mental struggles that we can't, like actual like things that are medically wrong with people.
See, I
That's
don't
different, but even I know. I'm just saying it for those people that believe that some things can be
that's
fixed,
like
some
the
things
thing,
can be
like
reversed, but they
believing it.
can't.
Okay, so all right, I
No, go on. Don't.
trying to like find the words to not get you kicked off the internet. So I think okay, I worked in an acupuncturist clinic and I saw people who were told that they would never get out of a wheelchair, that they would never have babies, that they were like crippled for their entire life and could never ever ever never ever see or be able to hold a puppy or like I saw people completely 180 from where they were told they were going to be. All right? So I think like even with cancer, like I like I've seen that reversed. Like I at this point I think that we have told ourselves that like when you're in that state of being and they're telling you, okay, you're gonna have to be on this medication for the rest of your life, you're basically setting yourself up
Yeah.
to
But
be.
where's that message coming from, though? Right? It's not coming specifically from a doctor. It's coming from higher up,
Yes, it's coming from society.
creating our limitations,
And
creating
where's
our.
that doctor getting it from? Google. So like it's just like I can't like watch your doctor. What do? They search on a computer. They never really like they don't really like talk. And that's not to say that I don't think Western medicine has a place. I think that with diagnostics and certain treatments like surgical kind of things, they have made leaps and bounds in things that we didn't have before. But as far as like a holistic approach to the human body, they separate so many things and make them disconnected, including the spirit and energy and that kind of stuff, that we will never be totally healthy or brought back to health because they're focusing on a very acute viewpoint of like how to treat you. Like for instance, with the fainting that I was having, like all through high school, I just kept fainting all the time, like spontaneously in like really like crazy situations. I would just faint and I'd be out, and if someone tried to touch me, I'd be even more faint. Like I would not be able to come back to for a really long time, and I'd be floating up above my body. Like I could see my body, and I like wasn't in it, and that kind of you could tell me I'm crazy. I don't give a shit. Like that was my experience, and I went through so many tests, and I was put on epileptic medication, and I was put on like this and that, and I was a guinea pig for Western medicine for like 5 years until I met a neurologist who did a brain scan and was like, listen, he's like, I think what's happening is that you are a phone receiver and you're getting too many calls at once and the phone gives out. That's the best analogy I can give you for what's happening to your body. And he said that it was like vasovagal syncope, which now if you read into like spiritual stuff, they say that the vasal nerve is like very important for like energetic sensitivity and that kind of stuff. Like, it took one dude of telling me, hey, it's like a holistic thing rather than it's like a physical thing, for me to start working on, okay, so how do I keep this from happening? Energetic boundaries, like understanding when my limits are hitting, like when it's hitting, protection, like putting that up, like clearing myself when I come home. Like, now I haven't fainted in forever because I have these tools, and it took someone telling me that it could be something different. You know what I mean? Like, so when we think something is permanent, I think we're doing ourselves an injustice. We're like setting ourselves up for failure.
It's like saying I am sad, I am depressed, I am anxious. And the moment that we take that label away, those things go away with it as well.
Yeah.
But sometimes the lingering effects are left in the body. So we got to work through that and release whatever this belief system has created, whether we gave it to ourselves or somebody else is giving it to us and told us, right? A lot of leaders, they also come from life experiences where they were told by experts or professionals, whether it's teachers or doctors, that one Les Brown, for example, he was labeled mentally retarded in school, and he was told he can't learn, he can't do things. Look at him now, like he is my favorite motivational speaker.
Yeah.
He's absolutely powerful, and he was labeled something. He just decided not, because another teacher told him, don't listen to what label somebody else has given
you. He said, watch me. He said he's gonna watch me. So it's just like, that's what I'm saying, is like, I've seen diabetics become undiabetic. I've seen like these labels. I think they like, I think that's it's like, I think these people or whatever it is wants to keep us down. Yeah. So they put out these labels, and they understand that when we are told something, like I've seen so many times in my family, people who were diagnosed with cancer deteriorate 10 times faster than they were prior to getting the diagnosis. Like, there is something to that like applying labels to ourselves as an identity and being like, well, this is just me now. Like, it kills drive. It kills the idea of opportunity, of progress. I think it does nothing but hold you back. And I think anyone, like, maybe you can't do anything that you wanted to do. Like, I don't think everybody can be an astronaut, but that's because they're not meant to be. Like, maybe you're obsessed with space because there's some other aspect of it that you need to focus on than getting into a space shuttle and being rocketed up there only for it to explode. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's something else for you to focus. Like, maybe you are the person that's going to come up with a new technology to do something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think this cookie cutter one size fits all crap is also part of the problem.
Yeah.
There are so many nuances to life, and people become very successful when they carve out a very niche thing for themselves. Like, my pop-up was an inventor. He was an illegal immigrant who became an inventor and was very successful. Like, he was crazy, and he like made up all these things, and there was no position for him at the time. He made his own position within a company. So it's just like, the possibilities are freaking endless. Like, as many books as there are in the library, there's things like, you know what I mean? Like, the imagination, I think, is in existence for us to propel ourselves. Like, I think if you can imagine it, it can become a reality.
Yeah.
Which is the whole point of it. It's like, what can we bring into the physical?
Yeah.
From our
And I
brain.
100% agree with that. 100% agree with it. That's why I know for a fact that we can all cure whatever it is that we, but when I say we, some people that have and they believe that there's no cure for it. I know that there is, and the cure really comes down to one word: belief.
Yeah.
If you believe something, it will come to life, right? It will exist by you simply believing in it and thinking about it. It will continue to remain. Like one example I like hearing is about our body, right? So the cancer is a perfect example. So for example, skin. If I can't remember the times, but I know skin renews itself, I think every year, or maybe even,
It's really fast. It's got a very,
yeah, it's
very
really fast, even more than that. So then if the skin renews itself that quickly, how can there be skin cancers? If the stomach lining renews itself every couple of 90 days or something like that, I don't know, don't quote me on these numbers, but everything in our body renews itself. So if
yeah,
everything in
you
our body,
literally have a whole new you every 7 years.
exactly. So if
7
you have a
years,
whole
your whole
you,
body has done a turnover.
exactly. So how can we then continue to have diseases, cancer, sicknesses that continue to stay with us? I mean, one of them is you keep popping this medicine that you're being told that is good for you, but it's affecting other parts of the system because everything is connected in the system, and therefore you continue to have this have these side effects.
Yeah. I mean, we're on the subject of mental health. So, like, just SSRIs, all right? SSRIs, benzos, all these things that are supposed to help us. You know what I mean? I have seen more people with bipolar disorder, with me personally, with chronic depression, where these medications only made things worse and made
Yeah,
these people and myself dependent upon them.
yeah, me too.
And when you get off of them, it puts you through like a entire, like, your brain chemistry gets thrown off completely, that you have like a mental breakdown and then you have to rebuild yourself, and some people don't make it back from that. Like, I think, like, I really think these things, like, if you read, okay, I'm gonna leave it with this, but if you read about the change from herbal medicine into pharmaceuticals and how that came about and how most of them were derived from oil, then you will be like, oh wow, and I'm telling you from experience, if we want to do the label thing,
Yes,
from
let's do the label.
working like, I worked in the chemical engineering department at MIT. So that is the department that creates pharmaceuticals. The amount of solvents and chemicals and crap that these things are made from, they're synthesized from. They go through all these different processes of chemical baths and powderizations and centrifuges and all these other things to become what you put into your body, and you think that has no negative effect on you. Like, the fact that people think that that is safe, and yet we have the most medical related deaths are from medical malpractice and misdiagnosed pharmaceutical, like,
Yeah.
not diagnosed, but prescripted, like,
Yeah.
like, from prescriptions that were given to the wrong people.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of them.
From that, like, really consider, like, really just think about it. Like, I think people need to
Follow the money. Follow the money. That's the
Yeah.
that's the best phrase. Follow the money. Those that have the most money, question as to why.
Yeah. I mean, and also, like, just, I think people need to get more in tune with their bodies. Like, you can hold, like, I can hold this tea, and remember the the whole muscle testing thing, you can do that with medications. So you can hold a medication in your armpit or something, or in your arm, and muscle test yourself and be like, do I need this? Like, you can do that with even vitamins. I don't like vitamins. I don't think pills or any of that stuff is good for you. Food, get it from your food. Get it from herbs and teas. Get it from honeys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are much more pleasant ways of treating yourself. But if you really want to know if you need it, like, ask your body. If you can't listen to your intuition and you're still learning how to do that, muscle test yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Muscle
Yep.
test yourself. And then on top of it, question everything that you read, everything that you see. Do not believe it. Do not take it at face value.
Yeah.
There's narratives that are being put out there on purpose and on by design and on purpose to keep us where we are, where each and every one of us is. We all have different information that is being put in front of us on all of different platforms based on what they know. And
reading.
yeah.
So you can believe whatever you want to believe. I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but I think it is very important, and I'm actually proud of myself that I've been this way my whole life, is that I don't listen to just one thing. I go and I read all of it. Like, no matter the source, I read it and I go, and you will see that some things line up. Like, there will be some things that overlap, and you'll read the sources of things. You'll be like, that's curious that that person's paying for this thing right now. Like, be observant and
Protected.
Neutral. Like, I think being observant and neutral and not giving in to an identity is the key. It's not identifying, because then you're only doing a disservice to yourself. And being observational. Like you were saying, like, a little kid does not have a pre-existing identity. They build that shit based on what they're told by people and all that kind of crap. Like, they're just bouncing and bobbing through the world in the beginning, experiencing, touching things.
They're pure light. They're pure light, and they're so bright and they shine so bright. They come out like that. They go through life like that if we allow them to. But as parents, as teachers, as strangers, friends, everyone tends to dull the light, and it comes from a place of love, but it's fear-based.
Yeah.
It's fear-based love.
And sometimes jealousy. I've seen that with parents. Like, I've seen them be jealous of their kid being so free. And so they're like,
yeah.
Like, I've seen that. And I've been like, I see you doing that. No, you stop it. But yeah, I gotta go. But like,
I was just gonna say, I gotta go too now. My kids are done school. I can hear my little horsey jumping upstairs. I don't know if anybody hears the noise of, literally the living room was right above my office, and he doesn't sit down to play. He's always jumping, always active, and it doesn't bother me. Go ahead. The floors are not breaking yet.
Oh yeah.
He's exercise.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom on this very important part of all of our lives. Every human being, deals with. Yeah, everyone deals with that. One way or another, we are dealing and facing mental health. And we do all, it's like, if you're not ready to deal with it, that's okay. You're not ready to deal with it. When you've had enough of that pain and suffering, like we were talking about earlier, then you will say, okay, I've had enough. I think I'm good. I learned everything I needed to while I was here, while I was deeply resting. That's what I refer to depression, deeply resting, because we are forced to deeply rest. Or rest really deeply, however you want to put that word around. And then you already know what actions you got to take. We all know what actions we got to take to get out of that place.
It's just like,
You just do them, right? And then don't make a really long list. Huh?
What? Yeah, you just gotta not like it's like get sick of hearing yourself complain
Yeah.
and then acknowledge the hard decisions that you're gonna have to make and
Yeah.
take tiny steps towards them if you have to.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might feel, the cojones to go and jump off the cliff. Like, like it's fine.
Yeah.
The proverbial cliff, not
Yes.
not the real one. Like I'm saying, like okay, I'm gonna get a new job, or I'm gonna break up with the person, or I'm gonna get out of bed. Like that may even seem like a big deal. Like so,
And do it. And then keep doing the next thing and the next thing. And most importantly, during this time, remember to be extremely gentle and sensitive with yourself, as if you are helping your best friend. Treat yourself as you would treat your best friend, because you wouldn't say certain things to your best friend. You wouldn't treat them a certain way. Like, you would be very gentle with them. You would be very understanding, and you would acknowledge them, and you would accept them, and you would help them through that. Do
I
that
mean,
for yourself.
maybe people have a different definition of gentleness. Because for me, I had to like give myself a kick in the ass. I had to be like, listen, motherfucker, you gotta get out of bed. You gotta go. You gotta go do the thing. Like I had to push myself, but it's a loving thing. I think like everyone's level of gentleness is different, but like
Yeah.
as long as it's coming from a center of love, I think that's because, like, if
So
I saw someone suffering, I'd be like, okay, let's go. I'm yanking you out of bed. You're gonna go take a shower, and we're gonna go eat some breakfast. Like, we're gonna go see
yeah.
the sun. We're gonna, like,
And that's also a great point, because then somebody else's best friend might be different. So
yeah,
that's why what I'm saying is, like, treat yourself as you would treat your best friend. So if
yeah,
your best friend was feel like in a really bad place, you would treat your best friend as, okay, get off your ass, let's go do
yeah.
this, because that's what your best friend needs.
That's
For
how I
others,
go up to the table. That's not everybody's way of being.
exactly. Right, whereas for others, they might have to be, because they keep telling themselves, like, I am one of those that sometimes, like, and you're going to treat your best friend a little bit differently on a different day,
Yeah,
right? So sometimes I find myself feeling that I am not good enough. Who am I to be coming out and sharing my knowledge and sharing my wisdom? Nobody's gonna hear, right? Nobody's gonna listen, and really being down on myself. So this is where I take the time, like, no, 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 no. I'm being really mean and harmful and harsh with myself. So I gotta be gentle. So what do I need to say to myself that is nice and loving and gentle instead of that? Right.
yeah,
And there's times where, when I as a best friend have done that enough time, it's like, okay, enough is enough.
now we gotta. Now I just gotta lay the smack down.
Exactly.
The nice and kind smackdown, but the smackdown nonetheless.
Exactly.
Like it's kind
Come on, let's
like,
go.
like I mean I grew up like hearing my grandma be like, all right, we're gonna do like like she did not sugarcoat things, and sometimes I need that, like
Yeah.
I need that for myself, and I give that out to people that I love. I'm like, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, and I'm just gonna tell you what I think because you asked me, and I won't say it unless you ask me, but the minute you do, I'm gonna be like, okay.
At all.
Like,
Right. And also at the same time being aware, because if we're being gentle with ourselves, sometimes, like, I am aware of myself enough to recognize that I'm being gentle with myself right now, just so I can feel good about my choices that are also not the choices that I want to be making. Right. And this is where it's like, okay, you're doing this because of that. So, okay, you got to get off your ass,
yeah,
or you got to go do this and get it done, because how are you going to feel after you're done?
yeah. Go
Right.
do those dishes.
I know, right? Okay,
Well,
I'm gonna go
I'm
do it.
about to go do my dishes, and I'm very excited about it. I'm like,
I know. Now I'm excited too. I'm like, yay, this is my way to escape doing some
yeah,
work. I've done enough
like
here.
I'm zenning out. I am being meditative by doing my dishes. I am do wax on, wax off. Like the Karate Kid. Like how he was in the Karate Kid, he was teaching him that washing the car was also meditation and builds patience. That was like the whole, see, anything can be a lesson. Anything.
Anything. And I believe everything is a lesson. That's why everything that I watch, there are lessons in there. Any movie, any show you watch, there are lessons in there. You can, I can even almost see what narrative the movie's trying to push and what limiting belief it is feeding, what fears it's feeding, conformity it's feeding. Like,
sometimes I'm like, I can't deal with this, and I
know, me too. I'm like, okay, I think I've learned enough. I hate the world. I need to go and find a way how I can love it again.
Where's a closet that I can go sit in?
I know, right? Go, oh my god, oh my god.
I must come back. I must come back. Take me, leaders. The aliens gonna come at me. No, but
yeah. But anyways, thank you. Thank you for everything. And until next time, whether it's going to be next Thursday or the Thursday after, when it happens, it happens. We will continue.
Thursday, as far as I know right now. Like,
yeah. But sometimes things do come up, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's for you or for myself, things might come up. And as much as we don't like to, it gets postponed, but the topic still stays. And because we know that it's valuable, it's beneficial, especially this one here.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, if they don't like it, too bad. It was beneficial for me, and I'm gonna have this experience for myself, and I'm gonna walk away feeling great. We did it. We fire hosed everyone with the information that they needed to hear. We gave them a whole entire crash course on what it takes to heal your mental health, whatever you label you want to put your mental health under, or many labels. We all need them. We do need them for a while to be part of our identity. And then as we continue to grow and become of service, because that's where we do find a lot of this heaviness dissolve and find our fulfillment, is being in service. Because no matter what job you have, you're going to be of service of someone. So who do you want to be of service to or for? And then go and do that. And don't try to fit somebody else's mold. Create your own mold. And creating your own mold takes time as well. It ain't gonna happen overnight. And it's not probably gonna happen in a year or two.
You gotta kiss a lot of frogs.
You gotta do a lot of things, a lot of figuring out, a lot of, experiencing a lot of failures as well. But the only sure way to fail is to quit. That's the only way that you'll fail. But if you keep going, you'll eventually succeed. It's just, it's science, it's math, it's whatever you want to call it. It is the truth, the one universal truth. Universal law, there you go. It's just how it is. Just like we were talking about belief, and what just the word belief, the power that it has, and how they've been trying to take our beliefs and change our beliefs in the past.
Like that dude in The Secret, he goes, "What you can believe, you can achieve."
Yes. Listen to that dude.
That one. I was like, approve.
Yeah, listen to that dude. He knows what he's talking about.
Knows what he's talking about.
He believed it, he achieved it, and many people have. So find those people and listen to them and follow them. That's it. Thank you. Until next time.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye. Thanks.